how we're engaging with young people, to take up specifically the issue of the Hackney Board. Simon, in terms of kind of police engagement with young people outside of, I guess, the policing process, do you have things in place to kind of do that with young people?
So so from the grassroots up, really, we have a network of schools officers that operate in the schools. It's based on a very much of a sort of a needs-based approach. It is an area where we'll be reviewing as we move forward, as we review our structures over the next year, because we have to look at how we can grade some of our activity, because we've got reducing police officer numbers. But we are conversely looking at actually trying to increase the number of police officers that we've got working within the youth programme. That's both primary schools and secondary schools. There will also be the creation of posts which are youth engagement officers, which provides us with a huge opportunity around identifying those people that are most at risk, looking at how we can engage and divert them into other schemes. We also have a group called Police Volunteer Cadets. We have a huge number of people involved in that. Not all of them are looking to go on to become police officers. It's a really good system for diverting and giving opportunity for young people to become actively involved in something different. And none of this is new. You know, who was a cub, who was a scout, who was an army cadet? You know, there are programs there. The question is, how do we identify those people that are most at risk, that actually need people diverting into programs, positive programs, groups, where there's a positive role model for them to look up to. We have been looking for a while now how we have an independent advisory group made up of young people. So we've had an independent advisory group made up of adults from across a number of different communities for a whole number of years. It goes all the way back to 1993, when the first recommendations came out from the death of Stephen Lawrence. But we're now trying to develop something which is specific for young people to be advisors on. But there's the Youth Parliament, and our challenge is, how do we start to try and brigade these voices into one single voice, so that we're all listening to the same story, which is a challenge. And then we've got the neighbourhood police officers, or dedicated ward officers, who operate within the local environments, who often have a presence in a whole number of meetings, whether it be neighbourhood ward panels, trying to increase the number of young people get involved in that, to community meetings. So we have a permanent footprint within the communities. We're trying to develop that relationship. Key for me is about schools, and that's something that we need to look at how we can enhance as we go forward.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Matt, do you want to say something about youth policy generally, and youth services, or the lack of it?
Well, I'll say two points I wanted to pick up with in terms of Jen's contribution. One is, I think, absolutely right about education and the need to start from a very early age at schools, talking about conflict resolution, and trying to put some of this in place. We, in schools do a huge range of things on a number of social issues. Why they're not tackling this quite as square on as I think they should is a good question. I think there is something that definitely can be done there that will help give people those skills, as you say, to resolve conflict in a more amicable way. On youth services, I think it's pretty incontrovertible. I think that youth services around the country, but in London, has taken a very heavy hit. Have been, in many parts of the capital, decimated over the last 8 years, and that is bound to have an impact. And we continually raise in Parliament that problem and the need to, restore and plug some of the funding gap that allows these youth service programmes and diversionary programmes as a sort of temporary measure when things get particularly bad, which I think what we need partly here in the capital this summer. But that has had an impact. What I would say, I just caution against seeing that as a panacea for any of this, and this is why I go back to the fact that the complexes of this are so complex, because the last spike we had in serious youth violence, knife crime, was 2008-9. Lots of these youth service provision were in place. So none of this, is a sense there's not a quick and easy answer, and some of this is going to take, I think, many, many years to put the right measures in place. But youth services are definitely, along with police cuts, things that make things a lot harder for the community to try and respond to the sort of problem we're talking about.
Okay, thanks, Matt. And Jackie, do you want to say something about our work to deal with gangs in the Borough's Council?
Yes, we do a lot of work with gangs at lots of levels, including jointly with the police in the VOCU that we fund. And yes, you're absolutely right. It's not just young people that are stabbing. There are adults involved as well. And I don't think anyone said this is just a young person issue. And it's not just about gangs. Knife crime is multifaceted. It involves, if you actually go beneath the levels of where the knife crime is, yeah, a lot of it is street related and a lot of it is young people. But there are older people stabbing each other, and a lot of it is related to domestic violence. Quite a lot of the incidents are domestic violence related. Nobody really talks about that, but it is the fact. So we do a lot of work. Part of setting up the task force is to do exactly as I said. Look at what we do, look at what we don't do, look to see where the gaps are, look at if what we do is being effective and if we should do it in another way. And we really need to get to grips with that very quickly. I would respond, Ivis, to your comment about, you know, what's the point of dealing with knives in shops? They get them at home. Well, we can't go into people's homes and stop parents letting their children take their knives, and that's partly of what I'd said earlier. We need to work with parents to empower them to, you know, if you've got a big knife missing from your kitchen, you need to work out why. We, the council, can't do that. We can help parents to do that, but actually that's a parent's job. And you said something about disciplining children and, you know, we need to make that easier for people. Well, there are laws, I'm afraid, and nobody tells parents they can't discipline their children. But I think, you know, child protection legislation talks about how. So no, you can't beat your children because that's not acceptable. No, I'm not saying you were, but a lot of people that come to me and say, if I were able to beat my child, they wouldn't be doing this. That's kind of not the way to do it. I wasn't suggesting you were doing that. But no one's saying parents can't discipline their children. They absolutely can. Maybe we need to do more to help parents that are struggling with tools in their kit to deal with their child that they feel is not going down the path that they want them to go down. That's a struggle. It is a struggle for any parent. That, you know, there comes a point when your children are more influenced by their peers than they are by their parents, and that's the hard one, and that's the one that parents need a lot more help with, in my view.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to take Dwayne.